There are some very popular ideas in the Overwatch community that are admittedly pretty bad. Things that Overwatch could not have and just won't have, which we're going to talk about today, giving reasoning as to why we can't have them. The first idea I'd like to talk about is one regarding balance. Some games are balanced around the highest level of play. Dota 2, all buffs and nerfs basically are made to adjust the pro scene, to make sure the pro scene is fair. And any side effects that occur at lower levels of play, or even high level competitive play that isn't pro, Valve doesn't really care about. They really only care about the pro scene, and the bad idea here is that Overwatch should be the same way. Overwatch should balance at the highest level of play and let lower ranked players deal with it. Why is this a bad idea? Well, there's two big reasons. One, I'm sure you know. Let's talk about the one you probably don't know or didn't think about as much first. That being Overwatch's esports scene compared to Dota 2's esports scene. Dota 2 has one of the best, if not the best, esports scene in existence. The International is the most fun esports event to watch, even if you don't play Dota. I just have minimal knowledge of MOBAs, and I still watch every International for the past few years because they're just so well done by Valve, and they get so many viewers, and it makes sense that with a pro scene like this, a pro scene with so much flair and extravagance, I guess, that it's balanced around that. That is the game's drawing point. It's amazing esports scene, and it's a really competitive game for anyone that wants to play that. Overwatch doesn't have that, not yet at least. I'm not sure we'll ever get there because Dota 2 just does it so well. So we can't balance around a scene that isn't exactly there yet. And the second reason, the one that you probably know why this is a bad idea, is it's just not Blizzard's style of doing things. Overwatch has a lot of people that play casually, far more than games like Dota 2 have. Dota 2 is a more competitive game. Overwatch is played not only in competitive, but in quick play, in like custom games. The community is at its largest in the non-high level competitive play area, which means people that enjoy the game for the game more than they enjoy the game to be the best. That's the biggest area in Overwatch. So balancing the game for the smallest portion, while some games like Dota 2 can do it, and maybe League of Legends and CSGO to an extent, Overwatch just doesn't have that luxury. So the pro players that complain that their game isn't balanced around them 100% of the time, gonna have to deal with it a little bit. Sure, there are some things that can be done balance-wise better for the whole community, but that's a discussion for another video. The reason it's not balanced at the highest level of pro play is because Overwatch doesn't have the community to support it right now. The next idea is one that Stylosa actually covered in his video today or yesterday, depending on when this goes live. And this isn't hate towards him. The idea itself is very good. The idea is for a role selection in Overwatch. That way, you can choose what roles you would like to get in game before you queue up. And when you get in game, the game tells you which role you got. Tank, healer, DPS, whatever. The role selector would clear up who plays what in every game, and it would try to distribute it equally. So you get mainly the role you want most. If you're a DPS main, you'd mainly play DPS, but it would give you some games where you're not on DPS. That way other people can get their roles they want. So the idea is fantastic, and I think something similar to it might work if implemented very delicately, but this idea itself, the role selection, will not. The first problem with it is that the meta will shift and there won't always be a set number of roles in every game. For example, we started the game with kind of a 2-2-2 meta, you know, 2 supports, 2 tanks, 2 DPSs, and that was kind of the standard. Then we had the triple tank, triple support meta, or the 4 tank, 2 support meta, and now we're actually seeing a lot more DPSs. In our dive comps in regular play, it's not uncommon to see triple DPS, 1 tank, and 2 supports. The role selector has no way of knowing that. So if it just gives you like a 2-2-2 comp, who gets to play the extra DPS if you want one more DPS in your game? Which tank gets the role? Does one of the supports want to play that extra DPS? You see, the problem here is that by using the role selector, if it doesn't give you the proper number of every type of role, you don't have the role selection anymore because people are going to switch anyway, so it wouldn't work in that regard. Furthermore, if someone locks DPS and they can only play Genji and Tracer, but the enemy team is stomping on all flankers and you need someone that can just play a solid Soldier 76, they're not going to want to switch. Like, what if your tank knows how to play Soldier 76, but he's locked into tank because of the role selection? He could get reported for switching to that, even though it counters the enemy team composition. If you see what I mean here, role selection promotes, you know, one-tricking even harder than it should have before. I think the better solution here is to promote flexing more in Overwatch, playing more than one hero, than it is to give you the hero you always want. If the system gave you more SR for being able to adapt to situations and flex and play more heroes, that would solve more problems than having something that would help you select a role. And then furthermore, given the current report system in Overwatch that doesn't work, it would be very abusable. People might queue support just to get faster games and then immediately lock DPS anyway, and that problem would have to be resolved as well. That one I think is a minor point. I think Blizzard could definitely, if they get the report system together and start banning people and punishing people, yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. But as of right now, it can't work. The next idea I do not think would work in Overwatch is a split SR system. If you don't know, Dota 2, if I'm not mistaken, has a system where no matter where you queue, you queue up against the same people. There's like one group of people and you can get put against them at any different time. But when you're queuing as a group of people, you have a different MMR than when you're queuing solo. So in Overwatch, you basically have two different SRs, I guess, with different MMRs tied to them. And if you queue with a group, you'd use your group SR. And if you queued by yourself or duo, I believe you'd use your solo SR. So the way that would work is you're always playing against the same people, but your SR changes based on how many people you queue with. This works in Dota 2, but for a lot of reasons, I do not think it would work in Overwatch. And here's the biggest reason. The difference between a 6-man team in Overwatch versus 6 solo players or 3 groups of 2 duo players is absolutely massive. It is going to be so hard for the system to balance games that have 6-man players versus, you know, groups of players that aren't 6-mans, because 6-man teams have way more communication, way more at their disposal, and can pull off way bigger feats of communication and everything than solo players. So putting them in the same ladder in Overwatch would not work. I imagine the reason it works in Dota is because Dota, there's a lot of solo play. There's a lot of solo laning. I know there is group laning and occasionally jungling as well, or stacking camps and whatnot. But basically, in Dota, there's more solo play than in Overwatch, because Overwatch is 100% team play. So having teams in the same queue system as regular players, I think would be horrible for the regular players. I think a better way to go about this would be incorporate a 6-man ladder in Overwatch, where you're guaranteed to get an enemy team that has 6 people on it, and maybe even help the community find 6-man teams with some sort of team finder in game. Given a team finder and a whole queue system that is dedicated to playing as a team with a new SR, I would personally love that. And I also think that would help reduce the amount of smurfs you see in game by a large margin, because they now have 2 different types of ways to play on their main account, so that's twice the amount that they had before. You just wouldn't need to go to a second account, is what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't cut back on smurfs, but I do think it would really help the game out if it had another system or a way of promoting 6-man stacking without harming the people that play solo or duo. I do think 3-man and up, though, should count as a group and should go towards this, you know, 6-man stack thing. But regardless, tell me what you guys think down below. I think these ideas all have better solutions to them. I think these ideas were kind of band-aid solutions, and there's definitely better solutions, which I have hopefully presented with most of them throughout the video. I would like to say that one more time that I'm not trying to hate on anybody that presented these solutions. They had the best intentions in mind, and they had good ideas. I just don't think they would work for a few reasons, and I tried to present ways that I think would work a little bit better. And yeah, so no hate. If you enjoyed, be sure to follow me on Twitter, because none of you do that, and it makes me sad. And yeah, so follow me on Twitter. You don't even have to like the video. Don't even have to subscribe, although you should do both of those. You should follow me on Twitter, though. That's the most important one. The link will be in the description, so click that. Follow me on Twitter, and after that, be sure that you actually clicked it and you're following me on Twitter. I'll see you guys all later. Have a good one. Roadhog out.